Beloved brothers and sisters, have you ever felt the sting of being disrespected? Perhaps it came from someone you trusted, someone close to you, maybe a family member, a friend, a co-worker, or maybe it was from a stranger who didn't even know your story. Disrespect cuts deeply, not because of the words alone, but because it touches our dignity. It reminds us of the fragile nature of human pride. Now, let me tell you something. How you respond to disrespect will determine whether you rise higher in life or sink lower into bitterness. The offense itself is not the real danger. The real danger lies in how you choose to react. When someone disrespects you, the first impulse is almost automatic. It rises in the heart like a wave of fire. You want to strike back, to retaliate, to make them feel the same sting they inflicted on you. That is the most natural thing in the world. Every human being has that instinct. It is rooted in our pride, in our longing to preserve dignity, in our desire to make sure no one gets away with treating us less than what we believe we deserve. But here is the trap. Retaliation never gives you what you truly want. It may feel good for a moment, like scratching an itch, but it always leaves the soul emptier than before. Why? Because retaliation does not heal the wound, it deepens it. When you lash back, you do not lift yourself higher, you only prove that the one who disrespected you has power over your emotions. You have handed them control over your peace. Think about it for a moment. If someone insults you and you immediately respond with insult, what have you shown? You have revealed that they can pull the strings of your heart like a puppet. A word, a gesture, an attitude, they can stir your anger and dictate your behavior. Is that freedom? No, that is slavery of the deepest kind. You are no longer acting from strength. You are reacting from weakness. And yet, this is the common pattern of life. Entire families have been torn apart because someone could not resist retaliating against a sharp word. Friendships that lasted for years have ended in a single day because one insult was answered with another. Even nations have gone to war because of the trap of retaliation. What begins with a small spark of disrespect can burn down an entire house if not handled with wisdom. Now consider this. When you refuse to retaliate, when you hold your tongue and master your impulse, you are not being weak. You are displaying strength of the highest order. It is easy to strike back. It takes no discipline, no courage, no greatness to return insult for insult, but it takes extraordinary inner power to remain composed, to remain centered, to rise above the noise of someone else's anger. That is true nobility of character. The greatest danger of retaliation is that it locks you into the same smallness of spirit that produced the disrespect in the first place. If someone speaks from jealousy and you respond from anger, you have both sunk into the same pit. The cycle becomes endless. One attack fuels another until both sides are consumed. But if one side breaks the chain, if one person refuses to descend, then the cycle ends. And often, the one who refuses to retaliate is remembered not as a coward, but as a person of dignity, There is also something profoundly psychological at work here. The human ego is fragile. It craves recognition, validation, and respect. When it is denied, the ego immediately wants to restore itself through defense or retaliation. But the ego is never satisfied. You may win an argument, you may silence your opponent, but the restless hunger of the ego will still ache within you. True peace is not found by defending your pride. It is found by transcending it. Philosophers and sages across history have echoed this truth. Retaliation enslaves, restraint liberates, and faith adds a deeper dimension. When you resist the urge to retaliate, you make space for God to act. You hand the situation over to a higher power who can vindicate you more completely than your words ever could. What you think is weakness in restraint is in fact trust. Trust that justice does not need to be forced by your hand, but will unfold in its own time. So the next time disrespect comes, and it will come, remember this: your reaction determines your destiny. You can choose the low road of retaliation or the high road of restraint. The first will cost you peace. The second will grant you freedom. Do not let the behavior of others dictate the condition of your soul. Rise above the trap of retaliation, for the one who rules their own spirit is greater than the one who conquers a city. Silence is one of the most underestimated powers in human life. When someone disrespects you, silence often feels unnatural. Everything inside of you wants to speak, to defend, to explain, to correct the wrong impression. But silence has a strength that words can never carry. It is not emptiness. It is not weakness. Silence is an act of mastery over yourself, and sometimes mastery over the entire situation. Think of it this way: when you are silent in the face of disrespect, you are sending a clear message, not to the other person, but to yourself. You are declaring, my value is not in question. I do not need to prove it. I do not need to fight for it. It already stands firm. Silence is the language of self-assurance. The reason silence feels so difficult is because our pride cannot bear to be misunderstood. The ego fears that if we don't speak, if we don't fight back, people will believe the insult. They will think less of us. They will walk away with the wrong impression. But here is the truth: your silence will not make the lie true, and your defense will not necessarily convince anyone who has already made up their mind. Silence protects your peace, while endless arguments drain it. Look at history and the lives of those who truly shaped the world. Some of their most powerful moments were not when they spoke, but when they withheld speech. Jesus stood in silence before his accusers. Socrates accepted false judgment without rage. Great leaders throughout history have understood that silence in the face of disrespect is not surrender. It is a statement that their dignity is beyond the reach of slander. Psychologically, silence disarms conflict. When one person shouts and the other shouts louder, emotions escalate. But when one person stops speaking, the shouting eventually loses energy. Silence removes the fuel from the fire. And sometimes that quiet strength does more to expose the smallness of the disrespect than any counter-argument could. People may forget what you shouted back, but they will never forget the dignity with which you stayed calm. There is also a spiritual depth to silence. In silence, you leave space for God to be your defender. You step back and allow the truth to unfold without forcing it. This is not passivity, it is trust. It is an act of saying, I do not need to fight every battle. Some battles are not mine to fight. I will let the higher judge settle this. And when you do this, you discover something beautiful often. Time itself becomes your witness. The truth that seemed hidden in the moment begins to shine with clarity as the days pass, and your silence becomes the evidence of your strength. But silence does not mean inaction. It does not mean ignoring disrespect as if it does not exist. What it means is that you choose not to respond with the same energy that came against you. You choose not to let anger dictate your words. Instead, you process, you reflect, and you act from a place of wisdom rather than reaction. Silence buys you time to respond rightly instead of reacting rashly. So the next time someone disrespects you, before you speak, pause. Ask yourself, do my words build my dignity, or do they betray my insecurity? If silence will protect my peace and preserve my strength, then silence is the higher answer. Words can be cheap, but silence, when chosen deliberately, has a weight that cannot be denied. Let me leave you with this. Words spoken in haste often become chains of regret, but silence chosen in wisdom becomes a crown of honor. There is something very important we must understand about disrespect. It is painful, yes, but it is also revealing. It exposes what is in our hearts. It shows us where we are fragile, where our pride still clings for recognition, where our peace depends too much on the approval of others. And if you are willing to see it this way, disrespect can become a teacher, one of the most difficult, but also one of the most transformative teachers you will ever encounter. Think of it like resistance in exercise. When you lift a weight, the very act of resistance tears the muscle fibers, and that tearing is uncomfortable, even painful. But it is precisely through that breaking down that growth occurs. The muscle heals stronger than before. Disrespect works in a similar way. It tears at your ego, it bruises your pride, it tests your patience. But if you endure it without being consumed by bitterness, it builds in you resilience, humility, and inner strength. Let me explain it more clearly. When someone mocks you, you are given a chance to practice humility. When someone belittles you, you are given a chance to develop patience. When someone rejects you, you are invited to discover the unshakable truth that your worth is not in their hands. These moments are unpleasant, but they are opportunities for growth that comfort never provides. Joseph's life is a powerful example. Disrespected by his own brothers, sold like an object, accused unfairly, forgotten by those he helped. If anyone had reason to become bitter, it was him. Yet each season of dishonor was in fact a season of preparation. The pit trained him for the palace. The prison shaped his spirit to carry the weight of authority. If he had allowed resentment to consume him, he would never have risen to the place of influence that saved nations. His growth was not in spite of the disrespect, but because of how he handled it. And here lies a truth we cannot ignore. Life will always bring moments of dishonor. People will misunderstand you. They will misjudge you. They will try to reduce your value with careless words or cruel actions. You cannot control that. What you can control is what happens within you as a result. If you turn every insult into fuel for growth, then no enemy can truly harm you. What was meant to weaken you instead becomes the very force that strengthens you. From a psychological perspective, this transformation is profound. Human beings thrive not when life is easy, but when they learn to adapt, to endure, to overcome. Growth does not come from applause. It comes from challenge. Applause feeds the ego, but disrespect tests the soul. And only what is tested can be trusted. If you want to grow in maturity, you must be willing to face the discomfort of being dishonored without letting it poison your spirit. Philosophically, consider this. Greatness is not measured by how well you are treated, but by how you respond when you are mistreated. Anyone can smile when praised, but the one who can stand steady when insulted has discovered a deeper kind of freedom. It is the freedom that comes when you are no longer dependent on the fragile approval of others, but anchored in something higher, something eternal. So the next time disrespect comes, and it surely will, shift your perspective. Do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask instead, "What is this meant to teach me? What strength is being built in me right now?" If you can see every insult as an invitation to grow, then even your enemies become unwitting partners in your progress. And remember this, disrespect may cut you for a moment, but if you respond with wisdom, it will carve out the space for a greater version of yourself to emerge. There is a level beyond simply resisting retaliation and learning silence. There is a level even higher than using disrespect as an opportunity for growth. And this level is the most difficult of all. It is the call to bless those who have disrespected you, not to ignore them, not just to tolerate them, but to actively bless them. At first, this may sound unreasonable, even unfair. Why should I bless the one who dishonored me? Why should I wish good upon someone who wished harm upon me? The natural mind rebels against this idea, but the deeper you reflect, the more you realize that it is the only path to true freedom. Let us think carefully. When someone disrespects you, they deposit poison into your heart. If you carry that poison, if you nurse the wound, it festers, bitterness grows, resentment corrodes. You may say nothing, you may stay silent, but inside your spirit becomes heavy, chained by unforgiveness. Now imagine what happens when you bless instead of curse. When you say, "I release them, I wish them well. I will not let their action define my reaction." In that moment, the poison loses its grip. The bitterness begins to dissolve. You are not doing it for them. You are doing it for your own soul. Psychologically, blessing those who hurt you is one of the most powerful acts of self-liberation. It breaks the cycle of offense and frees you from being defined by someone else's behavior. Philosophically, it is the ultimate demonstration of strength because it proves you are not bound by the laws of revenge that govern so much of human interaction. Spiritually, it aligns you with the highest law of love, the one that transcends all others. Consider this: when you bless someone who disrespected you, you are not excusing their behavior. You are not saying what they did was right. What you are doing is refusing to let their wrongness reproduce itself inside you. You are saying, I will not let their hatred make me hateful. I will not let their bitterness make me bitter. I will not let their disrespect pull me down to their level. In that act of blessing, you rise above the insult and take control of your destiny. History gives us countless examples. Some of the most transformative figures were those who blessed in the face of rejection. They understood that retaliation creates enemies, but blessing can sometimes turn enemies into allies. And even when it doesn't, it preserves the dignity of the one who blesses. To curse is easy. To bless is divine. And when you choose the higher way, you discover that the one truly transformed is not your enemy, but yourself. There is also a mystery here often. When you bless those who have hurt you, something shifts in the atmosphere. Perhaps not immediately, perhaps not in the way you expect, but blessing has a power that revenge will never have. Revenge escalates conflict, but blessing plants seeds that may one day grow into reconciliation, or at the very least, peace within your own heart. This is why I say the call to bless those who hurt you is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It demands that you step out of the narrow prison of your ego and live from the vastness of your spirit. It demands that you look beyond the offense and see the larger picture of your life. A life too valuable, too full of purpose, to be wasted on resentment. So the next time disrespect comes and you feel the sting of dishonor, remember this: the most powerful thing you can do is to bless, not for their sake only, but for yours. For in blessing those who curse you, you declare that no insult, no rejection, no act of disrespect has the power to imprison your soul. And this is the truth worth carrying with you. When you bless those who hurt you, you do not just rise above them. You rise into the person you were always meant to be. Beloved, disrespect is not the end of your story. It is only a test of your character, of your humility, of your trust in God. Do not let offense chain you down. Rise above it. Choose silence over retaliation, growth over bitterness, blessing over cursing. And remember this: your worth is not measured by how people treat you, but by the one who created you in his image. People may dishonor you, but God himself honors you. People may reject you, but God himself accepts you. So when you are disrespected, lift your head high, not in pride, but in assurance. Assurance that the King of Kings is with you. and He will never let your dignity be destroyed.